Another day, another story. Hello YouTube fam. Welcome back to our channel. In today's video, we will unravel the mysteries that happened in Russia in the past 3 days, which could have been a historical, insider's coup of the century. Grab your favorite drink and let us take you through some mind-boggling facts and unexpected events in Russia. What happened in Russia? Here's how the Wagner Group's mutiny unfolded over the weekend. The Wagner Group was poised to launch a coup on the Russian military, but it was called off after the president of Belarus got involved, and the situation appears to have calmed. Before we launch into a breakdown of what happened, here are some key things to keep in mind. What is the Wagner Group? It is a private army of fighters founded by Yevgeniy Prigozhin. The troops are described as mercenaries, meaning professional soldiers who work for money, not for a particular country or cause. Who is Yevgeniy Prigozhin? He's a wealthy Russian warlord who was once one of Russian President Vladimir Putin's close allies. Who were the Wagner Group fighting for? It had been helping Russia fight Ukraine, with Mr. Prigozhin recruiting Russian prisoners who vowed to fight in Ukraine in exchange for their freedom. So why is the Wagner Group against the Russian government? Over the past few months, Mr. Prigozhin repeatedly accused Russia's defense minister Sergei Shoigu of incompetence and of deliberately undersupplying his men in Ukraine. More recently, he said Russia had ordered attacks on some of his troops. What's this got to do with Belarus? Belarus is Russia's close ally, allowing the Russian army to mount attacks on Ukraine from Belarusian soil. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko also has a long history with Mr. Prigozhin. Wagner boss Yevgeniy Prigozhin and Russian President Vladimir Putin have had a volatile relationship. Now, let's recap the past few days to get you up to speed. Friday, June 23, 2023. The founder of Russia's Wagner mercenary force, Yevgeniy Prigozhin, ordered his troops to march to Russia's capital city Moscow from where they were stationed in Ukraine. He said it wasn't a military coup, describing it instead as a march for justice. Mr. Prigozhin said the war in Ukraine was built on lies and called for the evil of Russian military leadership to be stopped. He said the Russian military had attacked his troops and accused Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu of ordering the bodies of 2,000 dead Wagner fighters be hidden. Russia announces criminal charges against Prigozhin. Russia's state-run news agency TASS said the nation's Federal Security Service opened a criminal case against Mr. Prigozhin for calling for armed mutiny. Interfax news agency cited Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov saying Mr. Putin had been briefed and necessary measures are being taken. Wagner fighters urged to retreat. Russia's Ukraine campaign Deputy Commander General Sergei Surovikin urged Wagner fighters to give up their opposition to the military leadership and return to their bases. Security tightens in Moscow. Security measures at government buildings, transport facilities and other key locations in Moscow were strengthened. Military vehicles were seen throughout the streets of Moscow on Friday night. Friday, June 24, 2023. Wagner Group crosses into Russia. In the early hours of Saturday morning, Mr. Prigozhin posted on Telegram that his men had crossed the border from Ukraine into Russia. He said they had entered the southern Rostov region, which borders on Ukraine, and were ready to go, all the way, against the Russian military. His men would destroy anyone who stood in their way, Mr. Prigozhin said. Military vehicles seen in Rostov-on-Don. Rostov Region Governor Vasily Golubev told residents early on Saturday to remain calm and stay indoors. Law enforcement agencies are doing everything necessary to ensure the safety of residents of the area. Wagner boss makes demand from military HQ. Mr. Prigozhin said he was at the headquarters of Russia's Southern Military District, which is in the city of Rostov-on-Don. In a social media video, Mr. Prigozhin was seen sitting between two senior generals. One of them Army Lieutenant General Vladimir Alekseyev, who had earlier issued a video urging the Wagner Group to reconsider. Anti-terrorist operation, launched in Moscow. Russia's anti-terrorist committee said on Saturday that it was imposing a counter-terrorist regime in Moscow and the surrounding region. The Russian Defense Ministry issued a statement saying Wagner fighters had been deceived and dragged into a criminal adventure by Mr. Prigozhin, promising their safety if they handed themselves over to Russian forces. Extra security was deployed in Moscow as Wagner Group mercenaries marched towards the Russian capital. Putin's speech. He said Wagner fighters were heroes who liberated the Donbass region of Ukraine, but said Russia was facing treason and Mr. Prigozhin's revolt was a stab in the back. Wagner Group advances towards Moscow. Reuters reported that a convoy of about 5,000 Wagner Group fighters were heading towards the outskirts of Russia's capital. Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin on Saturday asked citizens to refrain from traveling around the city where possible, declaring Monday would be a non-working day, with some exceptions, in order to minimize risks. Belarus president brokers deal with Prigozhin. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said he'd struck a deal with Mr. Prigozhin, who agreed to de-escalate the situation. Mr. Prigozhin said his forces would return to base in order to avoid bloodshed. The Russian government said Mr. Lukashenko had offered to mediate with Mr. Putin's agreement because he had known Mr. Prigozhin personally for around 20 years. Wagner forces pull out of Rostov-on-Don. Reuters reported that Wagner forces pulling away from the district military headquarters on Saturday night. Mr. Prigozhin leaves the headquarters of the Southern Military District amid the group's withdrawal from Rostov-on-Don. Russia's government said the criminal case opened against Mr. Prigozhin for armed mutiny would be dropped. Mr. Peskov declined to say whether any concessions were made to Mr. Prigozhin, other than guarantees of safety for him and his troops. How are Western officials responding? The United States and many NATO allies have said they have been closely monitoring the situation in Russia. The U.S. National Security Council said President Biden was briefed Friday night, and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin spoke Saturday with allies from Canada, France, Germany, Poland and Britain. These extraordinary, gut-wrenching and surprising events for the past 2 days in Russia raised tension around the globe amidst the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. Thank you all so much for watching this interesting video today. Remember to like this video if you found it helpful or entertaining, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more exciting content like this. Thanks for watching.